Hey friend, Roger Christopherson here again with another first listen review, and just got done listening to the new John Norum album, Gone to Stay. Now, in case you guys don't know who John Norum is, I'm sure you've heard him. If you've heard the band Europe, you've heard John Norum. Yeah, he's a guitar player for them. Don't be fooled by the Final Countdown, although if you listen to the solo in the Final Countdown, that's a killer solo, even though the song's a little cheesy, fun to sing, but still a little cheesy. That guitar solo is killer. It actually was my introduction to John Norum, even though they had a couple albums out before then. I hadn't heard of them until, the Final Countdown, probably like the rest of the world. And when that album came out, I was like a huge fan. And then he quit the band like mid-tour, and Key Marcello took over, but thankfully he ended up coming back to the fold after a little bit. But in the meantime, he had recorded a few solo albums. He was on Don Dokken's only solo album, I believe, the first one he came back without, back when they split the first time. That's some killer guitar playing on there. And he played on one of the Dokken releases as well. And just a bunch of guest appearances here and there. Yeah, he's just been active, and Europe's been putting out album after album and just still ripping up. Actually, Europe is a heavier band than anybody gives them credit for. It's funny because their first two albums are way heavier than the Final Countdown, but that's one that everybody knows about. I remember my parents actually, my heritage is Swedish, so they took a trip back to Sweden, and I had them look for the very first Europe, CD. Well, actually, there was no CD. It was a, vinyl or cassette or whatever they could find while they were over there. And they actually came back with the cassettes of the very first Europe album, which nobody had, and I was so cool when I had that. Because we're talking like late '80s. There's no internet. There was nothing that was gonna, happen that you could get that except going over there to get it or finding it in a magazine or something. But yeah, so I remember getting that, and a lot different than Final Countdown, let me tell you. And I just recently came across, I found in my searching some bootleg stuff from earlier stuff that when they were called Force. And I know he played on some other band before that in the late 70s. I don't have any of that stuff either. Hopefully someday I'll find it. But this one is one that I was really looking forward to. I heard about it a couple months ago. I saw the video with Age Sten Nilsson or whatever his name is there from Wigwam singing on. I was like, all right, well, he's got a decent voice, but I really like John Norum's voice better. And so I was quite pleasantly surprised when I got this and that he's singing the majority of the stuff on here. And it's not like out of the normal for him to have vocalists on other albums and stuff. I mean, he's had Goran Edman sang on his first one. They're actually Goran Edman's. I think it's a rule in Sweden that if you have an album or a band, Goran Edman has to sing on at least one of your albums, I think. But so yeah, he sang on that one. He had Glenn Hughes that sang almost all of Face the Truth, and then he had Kelly Keeling singing on some stuff. So I mean, he's always had guest vocals anyway. But I really like John's voice, and I just actually did one of my series. I forget what's even on, hidden gems or undiscovered gems. I always forget what I call that, but John Norum's album Total Control, because I really like that solo. But I put that on pause when I heard this was coming out, and it's one of the things I mentioned in that was how much I like his singing as well as his guitar playing. And this one he's tearing it up. He's got co-produced this one with Piers Stape. I don't know how you pronounce that. All these Swedish and German names, I don't know. I mess them up constantly. It was just funny because my last name is Swedish. But and then he's got a couple guest people on it. He actually has a keyboard player from Europe on there, McKelly, and the bass player in this album, his name is Frederick Bergenstrahl, who I'm not really familiar with, but he is like playing his butt off on this album. This band, it's a trio, pretty much, just playing most of the stuff. And man, are they good. They really jive together well. So I was really impressed with that. And Kelly Keeling actually makes a guest appearance on one of the songs on this too, but I'll get to that. The very first track in this just kicks off with a rocker, and man, his singing on this one did not let me down. He's got a deeper, more soulful sounding voice than Joey Tempest of Europe does, and his writing for his solo stuff is a lot heavier, and his voice is deeper, but he still hits all the notes, the higher notes on a lot of the stuff, and it just really sounds good to me. I really probably like his solo stuff better than I like the Europe stuff, actually. And his guitar playing is a lot more aggressive, and it's more aggressive and more loose at the same time. It's definitely more bluesy player on his stuff, but he's technically really good too, so it's a good combination of stuff. And on this one, he's singing like crazy on this one. I heard the pre-chorus, and he just goes for some notes. I'm like, holy man, does he nail that stuff? And it sounds like heavy. That song is, what a great way to start off the album. And then Sail On, I think there was a video out for this one, but I didn't see it. In fact, the only song I saw was the one that Age Sten Nielsen there was singing. But this one here, Sail On, the riff in it, and even his singing, reminded me a lot of Audio Slave. I thought it was kind of crazy when I heard it. It's got that sludgy Audio Slave, Rage Against the Machine type riff as the main hook. It doesn't stay that way the whole song, but his singing in it, just, man, it's like he was channeling Chris Cornell or something. It was really eerie, but amazing at the same time. And of course, the guitar playing is just awesome on these. And then we get to Gone to Stay, which I immediately thought, oh, Hendrix. You could hear the Hendrix influence. I actually don't know if he was an influence on him. I know that he was really into Ritchie Blackmore. I remember reading that, but I don't remember hearing much about Hendrix on it. But the funny thing is, you can hear the Strat sound, and that's, Hendrix played a Strat, Blackmore played a Strat, he plays a Strat, and you can hear the tone in the song really strong. It's got that tubey neck pickup sound to it that you just can't really get from any other instrument that quite sound that way, or any other guitar that is to sound that way. Killer song, does great riff, and the guitar playing on this is just over the top, really, really good. And then we get to the one I was talking about called One by One, which Age Sten Nielsen there sings on. Wigwam's a really good band. You should check them out. I really would have liked to have heard what it sounded like with John singing this one, even though he does a great job singing it. It's kind of a poppy song, actually. It's reminded me of late 80s, early 90s type sounding stuff. I think it probably would have sounded better with John singing it, quite honestly, but it's still a good song. The video's all over YouTube, so that's where I saw it and heard it first. I thought it was decent, but I was definitely glad that, like I said earlier, that he wasn't singing on the whole album. So it was a good song. And then we get to What Do You Want, which is another, just another rocker. And the riff in this one kind of has maybe a Thin Lizzy type sound to it, and then there's just another killer solo. I mean, there's no shortage of good solos on this one. And the only oddball one on this album here was the cover of the David Bowie song Lady Grinning Soul, which I actually am really not that familiar with. Not a huge David Bowie fan myself. I mean, I like him, but I don't have this dive deep into his catalog and collect his stuff for any real reason. I got a few of his albums, which I know is a little bit crazy for me to not have everything, but this song, he sings a lot differently on this one. It shows off that he does have some different skills. Piano playing is really good on it. Not real familiar with the original, but it just seemed really out of place. It just kind of threw off the whole flow of it. So that was my only really critical thing to say about this whole album. The rest of it's good, but I'll get to that. But this one just kind of threw it off. He's done cover songs before. Wild One on his other album, The Thin Lizzy, I think is a great version of it. I think he did that one great. I would have expected something more like that, but I guess maybe Bowie's an influence on him that wasn't aware of, but it's just kind of a strange song. But anyway, Norma, which just the title track itself, I was expecting something a little more mellow, and it was not mellow at all. It was actually quite rocking. Age Sten Nilsson sings this one too, and he sounds completely different on this one. He sounds like he's trying to sing metal, and it really works with the song. Actually, I think this song actually probably is a good choice to have him sing that one. I think he did it very well, probably better than John would have done on this one. I hate to say that, but he just killed it on the song. And of course, the drumming and bass is just tight. The band, I can't even express how much this band is that good. And Calling is one where they really show off a different style. It's almost got a funky feel to it in the verses, and it's kind of cool. Reminded me of a little bit of a Middle Eastern feel to it at parts. Kind of reminded me of the Blackmore, rainbow influences in this one. But really, really good song. I was actually really impressed. It's nice how you can hear something different and have a cool melody over the top of it as well. And track 9, Terror Over Me, is the one that had Kelly Keeling guesting on this one, and it's only like, he doesn't sing the whole song, he just sings part of it, and you can hear him. I mean, you can definitely tell it's him. He's just got a killer voice. I actually met him by accident once in Niagara Falls. My band was hanging out up there on the side of the road at some hotel. I don't even remember what we were doing, trying to find directions or something. This tour bus pulled up, and this band gets off, and I was like, man, those guys look familiar, and it was Baton Rouge. They're just getting into their hotel, and we're like, hey, what the heck's going on? It was like so random, it was funny. But that aside, I mean, this song is really cool. Another heavy one. I mean, actually thinking about it, there's no like real mellow ones on this at all, unless you want to count that weird Bowie one. That was kind of strange. I don't even know what to call that one. But track 10 is a revisited version of Face the Truth, which was the title of one of his albums, and had Glenn Hughes singing it originally. He actually sang almost that whole album, aside from maybe 2 or 3 songs. And that's a killer album. You gotta check that one out. I mean, if you're a Glenn Hughes fan, and who isn't, you gotta check that out. That's gotta be part of your collection. And but this version, completely different. I mean, he's playing like the tempo is way slower, playing like a Rhodes piano. The guitar is more clean and bluesy, and John's singing it. So I mean, completely different version, and it sounds great. I thought it was a cool, nice way to end an album. Usually you don't expect a slower song to be good for ending an album, but it felt right. It just actually flowed really well, all except for that stinking song in the middle there. They either just got rid of that, or maybe a different song. I don't know. It's the only complaint I have. So I'm gonna have to rate this one probably like an 8.5 out of 10. It was really good. I'm really happy with this one. I've been getting some really good albums lately. I went through a stage there with ones I was expecting to be really good were not really all that impressive at all. And lately I've just been grabbing ones that hoping are good, and they turn out to be great. I mean, this weekend, not a clunker in the bunch. So I was real happy with this. This week was a good week for albums. So anyway, I know I'm forgetting stuff that I wanted to say about this, but I can't. I can babble on for quite a while. So anyway, can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this one. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and talk to you guys in the next one. See you.